Ah, there it is. Just like that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Drinky Bird is already up, so I'm going to move Drinky Bird out of the way here.
Teresa, you're going to have to scoot
Drinky
closer
Bird
to me.
Okay.
See there.
Drinky Bird needed a drink extra this morning. I mean,
Who doesn't?
Yeah, and he's an alcoholic, and so I totally understand that he just needs something to settle his nerves.
I'm just going to say, Drinky Bird is always on the water.
Yeah, but he's got his ways, and I can understand him being rattled after last night's debate. Oh my God!
Was that a debate?
Oh my God! I mean,
the debates stuck to points, had reasonable fact checking. Was that a debate? That was like some horror show?
Yeah,
from the Nether Pit.
It really was, also known as CNN. But the rules that they had to be a presidential candidate, I think, could easily have included not violating the 14th Amendment to be eligible for office. So there's, I'm gonna scoot over here, closer.
Yeah, like that.
My problem with the whole thing from the start.
Here, move this back.
Good idea.
That way it'll be easier for you to stay in the frame with me.
There. Always look at my hair. It's like I still
don't. This is not the
hair.
time.
There is hair here. Okay. And it's on top of my head, which is also good.
You were saying.
As I was saying, I mean, the memes that have gone out. I like the drawn cartoons that have gone out, showing Pinocchio, debating a corpse, and I gotta admit, I would vote for Biden's cooling course before I would vote for a goddamn fascist. And what is a fascist doing up there in the first place? So if they're going to let the fascist on, if they're going to let the convicted criminal, the twice impeached, buffoon on, the least they could do is fact check him as fast as his fire hose of lies can spew lies out. And that means, I guess, a team and a Greek chorus. Just raise it. No, that's a lie. No, that's a lie. Okay, so Mr. Trump, you've just made 14 lies. Let's take those apart. That would be great. They can do the same thing to Biden. That's fine with me because Biden lied too. But it wasn't like the basis of his presentation. So, and...
Yeah, I'm just like, come on. Where is the tap? I mean, Jake Tapper is not a terrible reporter. And when it comes to CNN, well, he's had some very good moments, let's say, moments where he has actually checked people in what they're saying in real time. Say, actually, well, it says here.
Yeah, I didn't hear much of that.
But that was absolutely repressed last night.
Tapper did call out trickle-down economics, and I was just thrilled to hear it. But, I mean, damn, in case you haven't heard, Jacked Up Joe wasn't there.
And I get it. 81-year-old men with colds sometimes lack a vital sort of presentation.
I didn't know he had a cold. But,
halfway through the debate, apparently his team was putting out the information that he had a cold.
Well, he's gasping like he had walking pneumonia. I mean, you've just got to see at least the first couple of minutes of the debate. He comes up to the stage. He's trying to smile. He can't get through the sentences. And he's white as a freaking ghost.
It was bad. It was just optically terrible.
Where was State of the Union, Joe?
Well, here's the thing. When you are... I mean, any of us have good days and bad days.
You have ups and downs when you're that old. I understand.
God knows.
But,
Well, when you're any age, I dare say we could go back and look at our presentations on Friday morning and find days that were like, well, barely alive.
I know.
And yet, this is the presidential debate. This is the thing that you were in Camp David prepping for a week, and you cannot actually enunciate Poland and Belarus.
Oh,
I'm going to say the answer on abortion and breaking down the Roe decision made no fucking sense.
Yeah, he couldn't get through the sentences to make his point.
And when Roe is one of your main considerations for how you're going to get the vote in this country, because you need everyone to rally around supporting reproductive rights, it would be good It would be really, really, really special and good to be able to articulate what Roe was.
Should we swing to the Supreme Court for a minute? I want to go back to the
I'm
debate.
just on my, I just got my ire up.
I know. I mean, the
I'm
Supreme Court
ired.
is just spewing out a right-wing coup attempt. Basically, we made a list. You made a list. Let's go back and forth on some of this list. Quoting the New York Times, the Supreme Court sided on Friday with a member of the mob that stormed the Capitol on Jan 6, saying prosecutors had overstepped in using an obstruction law to charge him. Chief John Roberts Jr., writing for the majority, read the law narrowly, saying it applied only when defendants' actions impaired the integrity of physical evidence. Lower courts will now apply that strict standard and will presumably lead them to dismiss charges against many defendants. The most prominent defendant charged with obstruction is former President Donald J. Trump, as part of the federal case accusing him of plotting to subvert the 2020 election. I was going to say, and now his lawyers will ridiculously try to say, well, he wasn't there personally ripping up documents, therefore it doesn't apply, which is, just easily predictable. They're going to say that.
It really kind of is easily predictable, and it's still outrageous. And I've lost my voice. I have no more rant left.
Elections have consequences, and all those McConnell, Trump judge appointments have terrible, terrible consequences. And they are, as I've got to say that Elie Mystal and a lot of commentators have pointed out for years that this steamroller of the Supreme Court and all these federal judiciary appointments are an apartheid attempt. They are expressing the will of the very rich, very white, very minority, and they're going to keep doing it. And now they are absolutely charging forward, I suspect, because they feel the emergency as everyone else does, that, the election is coming and things could change for them or against them. And the debate today, I wouldn't get that worked up about it if there were not that little category of voters, people who will vote, who won't watch news, people who will vote, who won't watch news. No, not going to watch the news. Going to vote. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, just whoever I think I can have a beer with.
The news is, it's terrifying. It's a downer. It's a real bummer in your day to watch the news. I get it. And yet, it's that price of being informed. And I get the fact that in this country, in this day, in this age, being informed is painful, because we actually know what Trump means when he spouts all of those lies. To be informed means that we know that should that orange shit stain get into the White House again, Project 2025 rolls out. And it doesn't matter that Trump has an addled brain and he can barely, function as a decent human being. It does not matter, because Project 2025 ensures that the boot of the future steps on the face of humanity forever.
So,
sorry, I had just a little 1984 in our mornings.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, even though I'm pushing 70 with a discount coffin, I feel like I need to make some effort to come up to speed and realize that this is not the 1960 television debate. Nixon looked terrible versus Kennedy and lost the election, they say, over that. This is very few, as I say, few people watch the news, very few people now, and very few people are going to sat through that debate. So I don't want to say, well, as many, let's say Republican adjacent Democrats sitting on the CNN panel were implying that this is the end. It's not the end. It depends. I mean, there's a meme war starting now, and the Democrats are smart. They'll pull out all the zippity comments that Biden managed to wheeze out, and they'll present them either as text, or maybe where there was actually a little bit of color came into his face towards the end there. And he said some great stuff, I think, which is now slipping past the television commenters, but it won't slip past the meme makers on TikTok. And one of the things that's going to go around is Biden saying, it broke you, something to the effect of, well, I have the notes actually. Biden said that Trump couldn't take losing, that, something happened to him when he lost. And you should have seen Trump's face when he said that. I mean, it was striking home. And it wasn't the only time that what he said struck home. And you could see that Trump was just, absolutely stung by being called a liar to his face. No one likes that. But you could see he was having a volcanic eruption in there. It was an interesting debate in a number of ways for those zingers. And, pardon me while I look at some of my notes. I live tweeted it. And so that helped me to get through it. I felt like I was doing something.
Many of us get through it, actually. I thank you for your service. While you are refreshing your memory, though, I just, again, want to say, when we are faced with the choice between, a relatively decent guy that is having, and I've got problems. I've got problems with Biden's decisions on many things.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm not going to say, wow, he's one of the greatest presidents we've ever known, because he's not. But he is pretty much, a decent human being from all I can more or less gather up as,
He's still human.
He's
capable of doing horrible things like giving billions of dollars worth of support to Israel, short the 2,000 down bombs.
Yeah, we can absolutely know that he has done bad things. He's also done some relatively good things. He's done some fairly good things for the environment. That all said, again, fairly decent human being up against a serial lying psychopath who just really wants all the power and all the power to be his. And so with that in mind,
Siri, get off. Siri, go away.
Just ignore the fact that somehow or another I've managed to trigger Siri. Okay, we're going to ignore that.
Eat it.
Go right ahead. I've lost my track. Thanks.
Sorry. Well, we were talking about the debate, and I wanted to lightly go over.
Oh, that was it. Woohoo!
Okay,
for the people that are tuning in that don't follow the news, cuckoo. Yes, just like that, cuckoo. For the people that are tuning in that don't follow the news, what they're seeing is somebody who does not look vivacious enough to be in one of the most major leading seats in the world, right? I've got to say, decent as he may be, if I didn't know crap, if I am a person who avoids the news because it gives me indigestion, then I'm going to look last night and go, wow, I don't know anything that either of them are talking about, but one looks like they're going to fall over and the other one looks like he has some vigor behind him.
Yeah, I think that must have been some heroic determination on Biden's part, because the first thing I thought when I saw him and heard him speak for a minute or two was, where's the ambulance? What is happening to this man? And it was pitiful. But
although I appreciate that bringing to mind my favorite moment from the debate, debacle though it may have been, there was that shining moment where Biden called out Trump's morals for having the morals of an alley cat.
Yeah, the morals of an alley cat, man.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
It was. And that'll be one of those zingers that goes around as a meme on TikTok. And Trump said things like, all over the world we were respected. I mean, when he was asked about January 6th, he deflected. He said that January 6th was, a fine thing, and that Nancy Pelosi was to blame for it anyway.
Because she said it. She said it her very own self.
Yep. And
and boy, she's going to be mad at her daughter.
Yeah.
What in the fuck? Again, good people. Hey, Tap, why not?
Yeah.
Why not just call him out on that
moderators
bullshit?
Are just sitting there.
It's like that's got to be the lowest of the hanging fruit to call out, right? Okay. I don't even know where to go with Jake.
And everyone watching here in Portland heard him say, they ripped down Portland. We're like looking around, huh? What?
Oh, yeah. Portland was on fire. Don't you remember, in our anarchist jurisdiction?
Yeah.
Where, again, he mentioned having to call out the National Guard, which he did not, though we did have federal marshals. And I think that is unconstitutional at the time.
He did his best to do an anti-democratic, anti-free speech clamp down. It didn't stop us. So I was glad that the moderators brought up Trump talking about retribution. And Biden called him out on retribution and managed to get, all retribution, all 4 syllables of the word out, which was a problem for him, especially for the first half of the debate. And the response of the ex-president, the 34 felon convicted president, was, my retribution, let's see if I've got it. Oh, yeah. He said his retribution will be a success, and changed the topic. That is the creepiest goddamn thing I have heard on national television. My retribution will be a success.
And it goes uncommented on from the commentators who were supposed to, from what I understand, in the lead up to the debate, what we heard was that they were going to have mics that went on and off so people couldn't interrupt each other, and that the hosts were going to do some fact checking so no one was going to be able to say lie like a fire hose. And well, they managed one out of those two.
Biden, Tapper asked if it's really about democracy, and Biden said the more people know, the more they will tag Trump for that. Biden then made a good point about Charlottesville, but I put a note, but he sounds so frail. And it's like, it was hard. It was so hard. God, he sounded so frail. And how can you fault someone for fighting for their life? But he was trying to make the point, on top of anything else, that he was alive enough to be a president. And as I was saying before, there is that little part of the electorate, very essential, that doesn't watch news, that will vote, that will be swayed by these little things. Now, they have time to turn this image around. There will be a second debate. But oh my God, back to the debate. The New York, it was funny to listen to New York. It was funny listening to Trump call out Biden for racism. I'm sure absolutely Biden, has a history of racism.
When Trump mentioned that Biden used the term super predators in the 90s.
Actually, he didn't, though. It turns out Clinton did.
Yeah, that's true. Biden backed that crime bill, but he did not use the word. What Biden missed a really easy shot there, on the other hand, because at the same time that was happening, Trump was calling for the execution
of the New York
of the Central Park Five, who have since been exonerated. And so again, there was just missed opportunity after missed opportunity, and it's sad. I'm a little sad this morning, and a little verklempt. I'm a little speechless, I think one could say. I also want to say, because I don't believe we ever did this, I'm Ani. I'm here with Teresa.
I'm Teresa.
This is now Bridge to a Better World. That's the live stream you're watching. And we thank you for joining us this morning as we are trying to gather our wits about us in the face of not only last night's debacle, debate, debacle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were expecting the congressional address Biden. We were expecting, this perky man to come up and blow away the competition. Quite the opposite.
Especially since he did, prep for a week at Camp David. And he did keep looking down at something that must have been notes. Maybe he couldn't read them. I don't know what was going on with the man. That was sad.
I missed that, but
he kept looking down at note cards. I mean, you got note cards in a debate, right? But he didn't seem to be able to pull out the information when he needed it.
I was really excited when he started talking about the Social Security cap. And, the Social Security cap is a vastly significant thing right now. The Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, and all of these right-wing propaganda outlets have tried for years, very successfully actually, to get Americans to repeat the idea that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. It most certainly is not. It is a pay-it-forward insurance scheme, and it's been very successful. And one of the flaws with it is that there is a cap on contributions at, I think, $170,000, so that if you make $1 million a year, you pay as much as someone who makes $170,000. There's a maximum that you can pay into Social Security, which is ridiculous. It is, it's anti-democratic. It's unfair,
like a lot of tax laws.
And that with Reagan's rating of the pool, means that there could be some, if the cap is not removed, I think it will be because we're going to start talking about the cap, and that money doesn't come in, then payments could be reduced at some point. Social Security is a point of conversation, but it doesn't seem to be understood at all. For example, Trump likes to say that immigrants are going to use Social Security, which is the opposite of the truth, because immigrants come in, they pay using whatever fake documentation they can find into Social Security. They never see a dime of it. They are continually putting billions, I used to know the exact number, they are putting billions every year into Social Security, pumping it up. Thank you, immigrants.
That they will never see the benefit
It's
of.
the opposite
This
of
is
the
true.
truth. And the idea that they create crime is the opposite of the truth.
It
And that's
really-
where those
yeah.
moderators totally fell down on.
They fell down, like it was hard to say that they ever stood up. I agree that these things, they're just terrible, right? And I do want to pivot. I do want to pivot.
Well, I got one more thing
eventually.
to say about
Okay.
it. I just want to finish that, which is Biden started talking about the cap. I was like, oh my God, people are going to understand the cap now. He couldn't finish the sentence. He lost his train of thought. He wheezed. It was over. That was the night we had.
That was the night we had. But I want to talk about the morning we're having. I want to talk about the last week we've had, because the Supreme Court is on a roll.
Please.
And
Yes.
so I want to just mention a few of the decisions. Teresa talked about the obstruction decision, a decision wherein they are redefining the obstruction laws to the benefit of January 6th insurrectionists. So there's that one. They've criminalized homelessness. So it doesn't matter if there is actually a place for you to lay your head. If you attempt to be a human being and sleep because, dear God, you've been up for 24 hours and now you are physically not able to stay awake, well, if you do that in public, you can be arrested. And then I guess you can sleep in jail.
Now, can we
Where
change?
I'm going to say the taxpayers pay a whole hell of a lot more to keep people incarcerated than they would pay to actually house somebody.
The cruelty is the point. And I
The cruelty is.
I wonder if we can reframe, I mean, if we saw this happening in China, if people were sleeping on the sidewalks in China, which they're not, by the way, then we would say that they were internally displaced, economically disadvantaged persons, people who have been cut out of the Chinese economy. Oh my God, they're sleeping on the streets in China, and they are refugees. When you're a refugee, no one cares why you're a refugee, by the way, which is a great thought if you think about it. As we live here in earthquake country, it's like you're just a problem. You're in the way. And if we saw that in Germany, if we saw that anywhere else, we would say, wow, they have a problem with internally displaced refugees. So we've got our refugees right in front of us, and we allow the Supreme Court to criminalize them. This is not a solution to the problem. We never talk about it in the frame of capitalism, excluding people who simply do not have the cash up front to just have the human right of a roof over their head. And yeah, when there's more roofs than people, it is a human right. It is denied. So we need to reframe that, and it's going to be up to us, because the right is certainly going to flee from any such.
So we also have
truth.
We also have the Chevron Doctrine decision.
Yes,
and this is a decision now that takes regulatory power out of the hands of scientists who may have, say, been put into positions to head federal agencies because of their scientific knowledge, because they're going to be regulating things with science. And I've had an issue, actually, with the heads of regulatory agencies not sciencing enough, because oftentimes in our history, we have seen the revolving door wherein regulatory heads, are from the lobbying community, that there's been some sort of corrupt shenanigans in that area. But at least there's the power in the regulatory agencies to govern, right? To regulate. not govern, really to regulate, so that, food scientists might be regulating the food supply, things like that, so that doctors actually make the call on public health, so that the national weather, right, the NOAA, can actually let us know what weather patterns are happening, where we can look for natural disasters, and how we can prepare. But no, says the Supreme Court, those little wonks are in the way of corporate power, and we don't want things to get in the way of corporate power. And so they've overturned the Chevron Doctrine, and that strips those regulatory powers from the scientists that have been put in place to, in fact, regulate. Now it bounces that back to the courts. Is that true?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, Congress makes a law. Over to you, executive branch. Now, execute the law. Executive branch says, wow, this is a big law. It affects 50 states. We need a structure in place. And in the structure to determine whether the law has been broken, we will use scientists, we will use our own judges. And we will create this regulatory structure that will say, okay, you over here in the SEC, you're letting corruption go through. You over there, not in the SEC, but I mean in the financial industry. You over there in the manufacturing industry, you're letting pollutants come out. We've determined this, and here's your fine. And I would say it is a pretty damn weak regulatory system. And often the billionaires and the millionaires go to court and say, oh, this was an unfair regulation. We don't want to pay it. We don't want to be restricted in this way. We don't want to respect our workers, whatever. And the court does, because they like rich people very much. They live with them. They're friends with them. I'll get to the gratuities in a second.
They get sent on yacht trips with them.
Oh, yeah, that's so nice. And so it's not a problem. But now the Supreme Court says, oh, you don't have to bother even, obeying that regulation. Just go straight to the court where your money will make the decision. That's how that works. And speaking of money, the Supreme Court also very handily says, oh, look at that person who took money as an obvious after the fact bribe. Well, that was just a gratuity. Gratuities are okay. And hilariously, they said it's like receiving a book.
We can't restrict the ability to give gifts to public officials. Just because you're elected doesn't mean you should receive a plaque with your name on it.
I think it was a former mayor.
Or a book, or a $13,000.
Yeah, that's the same. That's how broadly absurd it is. I mean, they must have understood when they put this forward that the people of the United States are going to look at that. I mean, anyone who did actually look at it, and say, they're excusing corruption. They're saying corruption is the fucking law of the land.
Yes, that is what they're saying.
That's how blatant it is. Because, how could the seal know that you would be so generous as to throw it a herring after it jumped through that ring?
Well, we don't give them the herring before they jump through the ring.
So sweet of you. That's what the seal thinks. Oh my gosh. Maybe I'll jump through another ring. Maybe I won't. But I sure did like that herring.
Huh. You're sort of saying that politicians are trainable, rather like mammals in circuses. Okay.
Yeah, that was the purpose of what I was saying.
Oh, I see what you did there.
So, and then there's what they don't do. They're sitting on the big question, which never should have been brought to them in the first place, is like, is the president immune from trying to overthrow the whole fucking country? Oh, we don't know. We'll have to think about this. Do you have a decision on that yet? Oh, no. It's going to be really hard. Might take a little bit of time. Months later, they're still sitting on it. They could not be more obviously trying to put Trump into power by delaying that decision. So this is a right-wing judicial soft coup. This is what is happening right now. I've got to stop pounding the table. Who am I? Am I Wendell Willkie now? I don't know. I gotta calm down. I'm coming down. Oh my God.
We both kind of lost our ability to speak coherently this morning. We were up half the night screaming. And I think in my description of the show, I've invited you all to have a very long scream with us. And I wish that we could just have a public scream in, because I think that is kind of the level of catharsis we need right about now. And then we need to actually reform and get active. What is Plan B? What are we doing? The unthinkable return of Rump is just that. It's unthinkable. And we know that he has designs to be a flat out dictator this time. Europe is quite concerned. Europe is a little freaked out by the prospect. And yet, here we are in this country, like about half of us think that that might be okay. The fuck?
At
Good
least,
people.
at least
What
the coup,
the fuck?
yeah. At least the coup failed in Bolivia. That was a weird coup. If you watched the news coverage, and I was wondering what the hell is all that about. But yeah, okay, the coup failed in Bolivia. Hope that's a good sign. And you know what to do about it. Obviously, we have to organize. I mean, I guess according to the Supreme Court, we can go full tupamaro now, as long as we don't rip up any documents. That's an exaggeration. I just wanted to say the word tupamaro. Tupamaro. Look them up.
Yeah, I think a screaming might be a good thing. It's a very dangerous time in which we live, and yet, what can we do? We cannot lose heart. We cannot decide that this is all too much and just pull the covers over our heads. Tempting though that may be, that
Oh, yeah.
will not
You said it.
actually help.
You triggered me now. I'm looking for covers.
And so what do? We have to be strong together, right? We have to be strong together. We have to reach out and support each other in staying strong. And we have to talk to anyone that we might know that feels like maybe they're just kind of undecided. Maybe grandpa needs to retire. Maybe all these other things, they're just going to not vote. I get it. I have been a third party voter my whole damn life, with the exception of the last presidential election. And I'm actually going to do that for a second time in my life during this presidential election. I cannot believe I'm actually saying it, but we gotta, right? We gotta actually at this time to stave off a real coup, to stave off the efforts to strip most of our civil rights straight out from under us, to stave off things becoming even ever more worse.
We can do it. I mean,
we must, in fact, get everyone rallied around, God help me, the Democrats at this moment in my life.
God help me, the Democrats ought to be their name.
It has to be, but we have to keep organizing and moving forward. We cannot just say, well, we'll vote, hold our nose, get it over with, and they'll take care of it. Because obviously that ain't happening.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like it right now as you look up the crumbling walls of this smoking pit, but we do have the possibility of absolutely overwhelming them. The Supreme Court at one time had 6 justices. That was how it started off. It was expanded to 9 within, I think, 100 years. And Roosevelt, thwarted by the Supreme Court, by a very conservative Supreme Court, they were called the Four Horsemen, wanted to expand it to, let's see, an additional 6 would have been 15 Supreme Court justices. It is within the law. It has been done before. And that is what we should look and hope for as we shove the Democrats kicking and screaming into power. And I think that those of us who live tweeted every second of that freaking debate are probably in a really low place right now. But actually, as I was saying, not everyone watched that, and not everyone is feeling as low. And those who are calling for immediate and jarring actions need to think about what they're saying. This, as I was saying before, excuse me for repeating myself, is the TikTok age, not the CBS NBC debate age. So, and thank y'all for your comments.
Yeah, absolutely. The court was last. It was brought to the total of 9. It was last enlarged in 1869.
Okay, all right, that's within 100 years.
So, but I think that it is far time, and this was something that, in fact, people had said as Biden was being inaugurated, right? As Biden was being inaugurated, everyone was sort of, and I don't know, everyone, many of us were clamoring for him to make the expansion of the Supreme Court an immediate emergency priority. Because I don't know, some of us could see that six conservative judges, many of whom have giant gaping ethical issues, that demographic on the court was not going to do well for our country or for the preservation and, in fact, for the invigoration of our country and our democracy, right?
Mhm.
We could see that 4 years ago as Biden won the election, as Biden was coming into the White House. That was some of the very first talk. Can you please consider increasing the court so that we can, in fact, have more justices looking at a full picture instead of three handpicked by Trump to do his bidding.
But of course, that was impractical because we were barely holding on to the House and the Senate because so many people voted for the hate party last time around. And I mean, elections have consequences. We've got to overwhelm them.
Yeah. So, in fact, organizing in our communities, organizing in our families, organizing with each other, holding each other up and supporting each other, these are the ways forward. And we really just cannot slack off at this point. We cannot lose heart, even though it's disheartening. We cannot lose heart. We cannot be, what's the word I'm looking for? Disenfranchised to the point of feeling so disempowered we become inactive. We cannot do that. So we have to, in fact, embrace each other and move forward together. Even as the SCOTUS pumps out gut wrenching decisions, even as Jake Tapper and, oh my God, the other host's name has gone straight out of my head. Even as they allow the fire hose of lies to go unrestrained, even as we have issues with such a large swath of our country deciding that their racist Yahooism actually is the way of the day. Even at this time, we cannot lose heart. We cannot stop moving forward. We have to make progress together.
Well said. Got some intuitions about that?
Oh, are we? Let's transition to the tarot portion of the program. Yeah, actually.
This is where I get to skate.
What do I have? I have the Star inversed. I have the Tower. We kind of knew that was going to be there. And we have the Five of Cups. Again, I believe we saw the Five of Cups last week as well. What does all this mean? Well, the Star inversed means that we're kind of blocking our own light right now. That, the universe is still a pretty wondrous place. The universe is still the place it was and has been and will be. The universe is pretty groovy. And we have the ability to receive intuition. We have the ability to receive gifts from the universe. And right now we're kind of standing in our own light, right? When we get quite worked up, and I'm going to say I'm quite worked up, we can miss the obvious. We can misstep. We're not necessarily acting from a grounded place seated in our power. So I'm going to say first call of the day is to kind of get grounded and seated in our own power. I think there's a little room for running around and screaming for a minute first. There's some venting. There's some very, very important aspects to venting. But we also have to then know that it is time to settle in, ground, and tap into the fact that we are strong, that in fact those that want compassion and justice in this world, those that want the world to continue to exist, that fight for the green spaces, that want to see an increase in human rights, all of those things, you know, those of us, we are strong. We have the numbers. We have been marginalized, which is a weird damn trick of light, right? Because in fact, I'm still going to say that most of us, most people in this country want to, in fact, live in a world that is not burning down in wildfires or flooded with great storms, that we want a world that is actively working against climate change. We want to see our paths and align, right, with our intuition and be guided by spirit. But we may be a little in our own way right now.
Ooh, libtards for social progress.
And the Tower. So the Tower card is a card that, well, it indicates sudden and abrupt change. The key line for the Tower card is that which is not sustainable cannot be sustained. It is, well, I gotta say, a card that I have thought about in terms of this country and our fragile democracy. It's really a make or break it kind of time, but what is happening right now cannot continue to happen. And so be ready to, in fact, see what is happening. Be ready to not hide under the covers and pull comforters over our heads. Be ready to act when necessary. Sudden and abrupt changes can happen because of storms in the physical world or the geopolitical world. So things are unstable. I don't think we even needed the tarot cards to tell us that this morning. When Teresa sees the Tower card, I know she usually wants to like run far, run fast.
Is what I have to say about the Tower card.
It is the card that she is in fact terrified by.
Yes. Well, it's kicked my ass so many times.
But I'm just gonna say, it's only when your ass needs kicking. It's
and
you
it
know,
warns me sometimes my ass is about to get kicked. That's why I get afraid of it.
oh yeah. Well,
Like, oh, thanks.
let's just say that things are changing, because in fact we know that end stage capitalism, the way that this country has been running, the everything that is going on, the incredible racism, classism, and oppression, we know that these things are not sustainable. We should not actually want them to be sustained. Big changes are coming. We don't know exactly what, but we do know that we have to get out of our own light and tap into our intuition so that our steps can be pretty guided in that process. And then I'm going to go ahead and get to that last card, which is the Five of Cups. The Five of Cups is really about focusing on loss, because loss is real, but it does not preclude opportunity. Every end is a new beginning, right? That in this particular card, there are the bulls in front that are disappointing the cat. They are gone. A couple of kibble at the most. There are the bulls stacked up behind him that he has not noticed yet. And there's this bridge. What's the bridge to? It's a different place. And so kind of harking back to the name of our stream, Bridge to a Better World. It is time for this cat to quit being absorbed in disappointment and to start looking for a place where they can feel stronger, a place where they feel more in touch with their own hearts and their intuition.
There's more kibble in our future.
There is more kibble in our future, but we have to actually build the path to get there ourselves. We cannot dwell on loss. We cannot allow loss to overwhelm us. It's important also to stay grateful. I know that gratitude practice at this stage of the game, of at this time in our world, feels a little weird to many people, and yet it's not. We really do have to focus on those things that we love and that we are grateful for. I'm grateful for you all joining us in this live stream or watching it later, as the case may be. I'm grateful for Teresa. I'm grateful for Libby the Wonder Cat. I am grateful for the love of family and friends, right? Ice cream still tastes good, even if the world is burning. And so how do we navigate that? How do we stay grateful for those good things in our lives and work together in concert to change what needs desperately to be changed?
Ladies
That's
and
what the
gentlemen,
cards say.
Honey hates.
And with that, yeah,
Thanks for tuning in. Is it time to grab the graphics department?
I think it is.
Okay.
I just again want to thank you all for joining with us this morning. We will be back next week. I'll be. You won't even notice. I didn't even need to say anything, but I get hand surgery next week, so I won't be gesticulating much with my right hand. I'll
Just sort of wave your paw.
Anyways, we'll be back next week. And thank you again.
Thanks for joining us. Our love goes out to you and to all the ships at sea. The airplanes.